Welcome to a quick presentation and demonstration of TIBCO Spotfire Operations Analytics. In this presentation, you'll see real-time process monitoring, automated root cause analysis, and closed-loop process improvement. Now, when many people think about operations analytics, they think about real-time dashboards. Real-time dashboards are fairly useful for what they were designed to do, which is to keep you up to date with the answers to predefined, known questions. Operations Analytics is instead focused on what you do after you get an unusual event in a real-time system. Operations Analytics is based on TIBCO Spotfire, and one of the key differentiators for TIBCO Spotfire is that we can create analysis applications that were specifically designed to help you troubleshoot a certain kind of root cause. Now, the first step in doing real-time monitoring is often to simply understand where you are today, and that is to establish a process baseline for the data that you intend to monitor. TIBCO Spotfire and Operations Analytics provide several different tools for analysis and modeling that allow you to understand those process baselines and then translate those baselines into process windows and process limits that you want to use for monitoring real-time data. We can then publish those process limits out to an event management system, in this case based on TIBCO's business events. Now then, when the event system detects something unusual, we can automatically launch back into Spotfire for decision making and allow us to do a root cause analysis of the unusual circumstance that we've just spotted. Then finally, if it turns out that what really needs to happen is that our process itself needs to be changed, or the rules around the process need to be changed, then we can do that from within Spotfire and adapt our process to the current new situation. Through traversing this loop, we hope to help our customers improve their processes continuously over time. Now here's the scenario that we're going to walk through in the demonstration. First of all, we intend to monitor some real-time data. Let's call it the quality data in this situation. So what we're going to do is extract some quality information from a database into the Spotfire client. From there, we'll use some tools that are built into Operations Analytics to calculate the process windows for the data that we intend to monitor. We'll publish those process windows out to the event server via web service and also into a database of record for future use. Next, we'll use a data simulator to send data into our event management system as if we were monitoring it in real time. As the data flows through the system, our event server will apply some Six Sigma process control rules to that data, and if anything unusual is detected, it will automatically communicate with the Spotfire server, instruct the server to open a template file, populate that template file with not only the data that we're monitoring, but also contextual information from another source. Bring that data together, perhaps make some calculations, and then save that file into the library and send an email to a business investigator who can troubleshoot the situation from there. Now the last piece of the puzzle that closes the loop is that we may want to take a look at the new data that we're receiving and make some changes to those process limits and publish them back into the event server for future use. Now, let's switch out of the presentation mode here and go and open up Spotfire. Now from Spotfire, I'm going to go and open from our library a link to some of a historical version of the data that we intend to monitor in real time going forward. Now this is just going to be raw data. I'm not going to have a lot of visualizations and so on set up, because the purpose of this data is to help us to define our process baselines and our rules. Now what we're going to do is go to the Tools menu, open our Operations Analytics tool called Create Limits. Here, the system will allow us to select all of the variables of interest, and here we have 55 different variables. They could be key process indicators of any kind, and we're going to calculate the mean plus or minus 3 times the standard deviation and establish that as our process windows. Now Spotfire Operations Analytics has Six Sigma process control rules built into the system so that out of the box you can use these for monitoring your data, but of course the system is designed to allow you to extend and create new rules for monitoring that might be more appropriate for the kind of data that you happen to have in your environment. So after I've made the calculation, what I can see here now is a bit of metadata about these variables. I can see indicator 15, number 9, 44, and so on. Here I've computed the lower, the target, and the upper process window for the data, and I've also tabulated the min, max, and standard deviation and some other statistical metrics. Now, what happens here is as I click through each of these rows, the visualizations below are automatically changing. This gives me an opportunity to filter the data in and out, to perhaps say, well, during this period of time and for this geographic region and on this piece of equipment, for example, I know that that data should be excluded from my baseline. And what I'm trying to do is establish and high grade my information so that I'm quite sure that this is the information I want to use for my rules. Then I could perhaps recalculate them and get to the place where I'm comfortable. Now I'm just going to reset the filters, and let's say we're satisfied with these process windows that we've just calculated. Now I'm going to go back to the Tools menu and publish these limits out to our event server. Now when we push OK, we're going to send this metadata information out via web service to our event server, and now we can see, of course, we're getting the message back indicating that those 55 limits have been received by the system, and now we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and close this file here. Now I'm going to hide this, and let's switch over to the second phase of the demonstration, which is the real-time data. Now we're going to use this data simulator to fire a series of events into the system, simulating the real-time capture of this information in our own, let's call it, operation. So what we're going to do is start from the second row in this file that we have on, over on my desktop somewhere, and I'm going to generate 3,000 messages, each of which is a measurement of an individual KPI, and we'll kind of send those into the system fairly quickly. So we'll let that system start churning. Now we'll just kind of put away the data simulator. What I want to show you is now in the background, I have our virtual machine running, which contains all of the operations analytics infrastructure, including the real-time complex event processing engine, Business Events. Here you can see all of those events are being monitored as expected. So what I'm going to do is, while the system is running, we're going to just go ahead and switch over to our email system. Here we have some emails that we received not too long ago, the last time I ran the system. I have, if I take a quick click here, I can see that indicator number 7 has been monitored, and we've received an event, an alert around indicator number 7, a 3 sigma violation. Here's the value of that metric. Here's a link to an analysis file that would help us troubleshoot the root cause of that. Here's the graphic showing me what the system saw, indicator number 7 with a time trend over time, and here's that data point that's causing us some problems. Now I can click through here. You could see that there were subsequent events, some of them more serious than the previous ones, a 2 sigma rule, a 1 sigma rule, 2 sigma rule, and so on. Well, I can start to see that I'm getting new events from the data that we've just started sending into the system. So what we'll do is just go ahead and open up one of these analysis files and take a look and see what we see. So I'm going to go back to Spotfire, back into our library. Of course, I could just click on that link, but just to save a little bit of time, we'll go straight to the library item here. We'll get one of the more recent ones, perhaps this one. Let's take a look. So here we have an application that was created for us in response to a 1 sigma rule. Now this is not a very serious violation. You can see that this particular data point is well within our process window, but we're on a trend that perhaps is heading in the wrong direction. So there's some information about that violation, and then I have all of the metrics that I'm monitoring along with this particular indicator, number 3, so that I could perhaps compare and contrast one KPI to another and see if they are perhaps failing together. Now here's the distribution of that key indicator. I can take a look here at all of the previous violations that I've received for that variable. So I can go back through time and you can see that there were some violations here previously, and then a more serious one down here below. Now then, that's not all we have. In addition to looking at the KPIs themselves, we've also gathered up some contextual information from other sources and done an automated correlation to see if the variation in these indicators is related to some other contextual data. In this case, I've gathered together some equipment processing data to compare to these KPIs, and I can see, for example, that indicator number 15, its variation is strongly correlated with which tool is used at a particular step here, the so-called drying tool. And I can click through all of these different relationships in ranked order to see which ones make the most sense to me as the key investigator for this particular operation. So here we've established potentially a root cause for the variation that we're seeing. Now the other scenario may be that what we want to do instead of just identifying the root cause is to perhaps take one of these metrics and tighten up the process window so that in the future we monitor a little bit closer to the center. So what I'll do is mark some of this historical data here. zoom in on only those marked rows, and then we'll recalculate the limits for this particular one, which happens to be indicator number 38. So we'll go back to Create Limits, type in number 38 here, pick that variable, I'll remove indicator number 3, and make the calculation. Here we are, back to the particular indicator, and you can see that I've tightened up the process windows a bit. If I reset all the variables, you'll see that indeed this process window is now a bit tighter. And we'll go ahead and publish that out into the event system. And there we go. We have one limit publication has been acknowledged by the system. So now we've covered the 3 key steps that we hope to cover in this demonstration. The first one being gathering up some historical data and calculating the process windows, publishing them out to the event server. The second one being running the data simulator to monitor and simulate the real-time capture of new information in comparison to our process windows through our process control rules. And the third one being root cause analysis, and finally adjusting those parameters over time and then rolling them back into the system to kind of complete the cycle. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation of TIBCO Spotfire Operations Analytics, and if you have any further questions, please get in touch with us at spotfire.tibco.com, and we'd love to have a conversation with you.